All right, hello and good morning. Welcome to Low Code Campfire for Friday, May 6th. This is episode number 49. Can't believe we're coming up on doing this for a year. So we have a good crew this morning. This is an event we do Fridays at 10 a.m. Central Time, and it's a community gathering where we get together to share techniques, challenges, experiences, and this is an all skill levels welcome event. I love this event because so I've seen it operate all the way from being a steering committee to debugging lines of code. And if anybody saw Low Code Cafe this week, you know that sometimes you need someone to help you debug code. My name is Dale Warner. I'm head of support for Plantain App. This episode is going to be recorded and posted to YouTube, and the link to YouTube is in our we typically put that in our emails, but it's also there on screen. It's youtube.com/plantainapp. And if you subscribe to that and get alerts, you'll see everything that we post. We have a pretty informal agenda. We say hello, we go around the campfire and do all these different things. First call whatever problems that you'd like to bring to the group. And we'll cover some of these other things, but there's always a chance for you to talk. And after a while, we'll turn off the recording. And if anybody wants to say, to join us in our Afterglow section, it's just the unrecorded version where if you need to be a little bit more free, you're welcome to stick around after for that. And let's see, it's a very curious group. I see we are only regulars so far today, so you already know about muting your phone. You can submit questions and topics in advance. And with that, hello, good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Since there isn't anyone new, we'll just dive right in. Oh, I did want to say, do a preview, Low Code Cafe. We settled on a topic today. We're going to have Costine from our technical crew is going to be talking about Docker. So that's going to be a good one. You'll see the email go out on Monday, but if you can attend on Wednesday, I think it's going to be a really good one. So we are all ready to first call. What's going on? Is there anything we can help with?
Just following up, Dale, on the best practices for environment migration.
Yes.
Has that document been sent off, or?
It hasn't been sent out, and in fact, I spent my Friday afternoon working on it last week, and I'll spend my Friday afternoon again working on it this week. However far we get today, I will send it out, even though it's a work in progress. So make a note of that.
Awesome. Thanks, Dale.
Sure. What else we got going on? Great. Everybody's project is on track. Okay, here we go then. I took a look earlier today, and there are no new contributions into the Campfire website. Everybody here, I think, is a participant in that. But if you're watching this on recording and you want to be a participant and you join our Campfire group, you get access to the contributions that are in the Campfire website. And so it's an opportunity to have tips and tricks on tap. And I guarantee you that I use this even just this last week. I used the custom dash cards that Ben submitted. So this is a great resource for moving things along in your projects. And since anyone have anything that they're thinking about contributing to this, or questions about the process?
I have a quick question, Dale. Do you mind if I either put something up regarding the elapsed time or enhance yours? I have one that's similar to yours, but it actually breaks it down to hours, minutes, and seconds as well. So it's like days, hours, minutes, seconds.
I don't mind that, and you know, for just a quick review of that, it shows time based on how long ago, and it's just an easier reference for that. Let's see, I took mine down to seconds. So what?
No. I mean, it literally will show you elapsed time down to hours, minutes, and seconds.
Yeah. So
Yours
variation.
only goes days and months, is what
I
it
think
returns.
I think it might be useful to just add another, you know, maybe put an alternate script with you know, that
Okay.
gets a different ending. Just slide, you know, maybe this could be half the width. You could pop another one
Oh
on
no,
there.
that's what I meant. I mean, would you
Yeah.
rather I like add a secondary script to yours, or do you want me to just do a completely different page? Because I mean, since it's regarding the same thing.
I think I'd do it on the same one so you could see the difference. Change the listing to show more, to show the other version. I think it'd be great. People, I think, will get a better sense of how to modify the.
Just figured I ask before I touch anything.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the spirit of that. Cool. Anyone else thinks they have something in their toolbox that they'd like to share here? Or anybody using this? Okay,
yeah, this is Mark. I definitely get in there and try things out. I appreciate having that there.
Thank you.
I haven't yet, but I anticipate using the custom dash card. And I've actually also used your utility token database that you set up. So
Yeah, you know, I did one. I can't remember which ones are out there for the utility tokens, but if you saw, where are we here? I have too many logins, if you don't know. I had one that I used in Cafe this week that it's kind of cool. Which ones were we talking about? These utility ones. Oh yeah, this contains one. Yep. And there's other good ones.
the database you set up, and I forgot what you originally called it. We have to pass the app name, the value. I've renamed it, so I've forgotten what you called it.
Oh, to store data.
Yeah, in my case, I was using it for project parameters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know where that.
I thought you called it Campfire. Something Campfire, but I may be wrong. Let me see if I can find the original.
Might not be in this one. I don't know. Some this one that I was talking about from Cafe. Let's see. This was health check. Which I really should drop in here as a good one. And I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if there's easier ways to do things, but this one that I did here, the date, it's just allows simple formatting of the date using format strings. And I think it kind of enhances what we already do with on our date token, but just kind of gives you, and it'd be really easy to do a version of this that would be like current UTC, or to actually accept the date and be able to reformat it. So I'm going to drop that in there just for fun. Go import. So there it is. Okay. But yeah, anything that you, any tip and trick, I think we could to drop in here and help people move forward. So good, that's that. Thought we could take a look at feature requests. We haven't done that in a couple of weeks. Just for fun, I have put in, there's a couple that have been completed. So the ability to type of data in a field is complete in our migration to Bootstrap 5. And we've added the simple save button to the workflow designer. Did everyone catch that one?
Did you release that as a hotfix now?
It is.
Huh?
And I've already discovered our first bug with it too, which is that if you're starting a new workflow and you hit save, it saves it. And if you hit save, you get another copy. You might have caught that on Cafe too. So it works correctly when you have a workflow that's been saved if you already, but if you're naming it for the first time and keep using it, you're going to get extra copies. We'll obviously fix that, but small bug got past us.
Thanks for pushing that through, Dale.
Oh, sure. It's a you know, it's a little thing, but and that's really, I was showing all the influence I have with the development team, that I was able to promise something and then get it to happen. And if you don't know, that's a joke. I have very little influence in the development team, but
Oh no, that's not a joke. He does.
I can argue for it.
He does have very little influence.
He does. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, I can advocate for you, and that's the best I can do. All right. So does anybody have a feature request? And if you, I think everyone here knows to put in feature requests. So anyone have one that you want to advocate for? We're still, whether it's in version 121 or versions that follow, there's things that we like to be able to pull things out here. While you're thinking about that, I will mention one of the things that we are actively working on is changing our admin screens, the way that things present. And so, for example, when you go into action form and you see, and actually we're not starting there, we're starting with scheduler, but the idea is that we will be replacing all of our admin screens. They're going to do all the same things, but going to get a new look with better functionality. And the things that you guys, some of the things that you've talked about in here about wouldn't it be nice if, we hope to include in that revamp as well. So I don't have any specifics on that other than we are doing it. I've seen mock-ups of a nice clean UI. The help will be more consistently, it's going to be there, but out of the way, so that the screen is less cluttered. It needs to be very accessible, but if you when you're working with a tool that you're familiar with, you'll be able to get and see the things that you're trying to work with much faster. So a lot of thought going into that. Some of the things that you guys have talked about are certainly under consideration, like being able to insert an action in the middle of a stack instead of putting it on the bottom and dragging it around, activating and deactivating, all the things, the ideas that you've put in here, lots of them are under consideration.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have things around that area that haven't been mentioned yet, it'd be excellent timing. And and we'll also take on anything else. So with that, thoughts?
Yeah.
Guys,
Oh,
hiding
yeah.
the system properties to entities.
Excuse me?
I said, have you guys decided to hide the system properties when creating entities?
Okay, I can tell you, we have made the decision to do that, but we're not there yet. There's a whole entity redesign that's coming in the future, but we want to get these admins pages all taken care of first. But I
So
promise you it's coming, Ben.
I'm, for
I just
anyone-
like to get my screen real estate back.
Yep. And for anyone that I should have just left that up. For anybody that doesn't know, when you go into entities and edit any entity, that we take over half the screen with system properties that you can't do much with, and you need to know that they're there. So that's what you're talking about, right, Ben? Getting rid of, putting that out of the way. So
Yeah, I mean, it's, well, like that little override that I had created way back when that, by default hides it, but if you just click a button, you could still see them. So if you
Mhm.
forget what they're called, you could always pull it back up to say, oh yeah, it's created by or whatever, but not necessarily to see it there all the time since it eats up a lot of screen real estate.
Mhm.
and they're very consistent from what, well, they're always there from one to the next all the time.
Right.
So, and I can't remember, you can't.
You can't change them, no.
Yep. So that it would make sense to put them down. I could even see adding them below so that they're visible. Since you mention it, I just needing to know what things are called. One of the things that I do all the time is rely on the SQL console to be able to see the field names that are present in a given app. You can see the characteristics and you can click on them and they're in your clipboard. So when I'm using them, I often refer here. It's just as easy and you can get to all of them very quickly.
Well, that's a good tip.
Glad to help. There's probably 1,000 of them that you guys have too. So if it occurs to you, let me know. Anyway, I put the link on the chat for this particular page. And if anybody hasn't already voted for Ben's entry here, it's all you got to do is sign in. Anybody want to advocate for any other?
Yes, of course. I have a number of issues put in, but one in particular, and that is you can either set an action form on open on pop-up or open on initial, and that's a fixed thing, so you can't put a token in there, and that's what I would like. So, and that's open modal edit form from another page. And so if you could open that, you could use a token, whether or not the action form should be opened or not. That would be really helpful, I think. And Roberto also thinks that. So it's, he commented on the issue.
And I'm sorry, that's not one of these, right?
Yes, it's the one from the bottom. Open a modal edit form from another page. And you can say to a form whether to open on load or open in the pop-up, but there are fixed choices. So you can't do anything intelligent with it. So you can't use a token to say, well, I want to open it or not. That's the point Roberto added to this issue.
Okay, so that's all tied in with this one suggestion, right?
Yes, yes.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that because It doesn't mention token. Oh, yep.
It's the last line. Maybe I should make it more obvious.
Well, only to me, as I, you know, I'm sure it makes sense, but I didn't see it immediately. So live television, sometimes I struggle a little bit.
So yeah, this is Mark. I think I have a request in there somewhere. Just kidding. There's one in particular I'd petition for a couple extra votes. That's the second one from the top. Edit a field property in multiple fields using a list format. It might be something that's hard to vision until you see it, but go ahead and click it open because there's a picture in there that makes it easier to understand. So the idea is if you want to change, or if you need to change the same property on multiple fields, it'd be nice to put them in a list and then just change them in a list format. That picture there is the on-change click fee property of multiple fields. And it's just nice to put them above and below each other so you can copy and paste one or the other. You can see what you did on the last one. And I think if it would just either have a save button at the bottom or save as you did it, that would be awesome. Does that make sense, or is it
No,
better?
no, it does. I'm trying to get to where I can take a couple of notes here.
You know, I think not all the properties of all the fields would be usable in this format, but a number of them would. The UI fields on bind, a number of other properties would work.
And I'm just going back because I wanted to make sure to give these some thoughts when I'm not also trying to host. So.
Hey, thanks. Somebody voted for it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, we need to figure out how to monetize this, right?
That's a good idea.
Plunk some money
Turn
back
that penny for your thoughts into something real. 1 penny per vote.
Yeah, or something in the beer fund, or I don't know.
I don't know, but I have access to the database, so I'm just saying I can really up your numbers, you know, for a small donation.
Ooh.
Just
See,
kidding. Just kidding.
opportunist.
All right. Anybody else want to lobby for something?
Well,
Please
for
do.
my minor little thing that I just put in today at the top of the list. That's just, excuse me for the coughing. That's just something that I came across today in one of my projects that I was working on, and realized it would be nice if it was just all encompassing in the existing actions.
Right. Yeah, I spent more time on that than I probably should have yesterday, because I really thought that I could get there. And I appreciate, I think Mark also helped with this one. I don't know who else on the community forum, but as far, I even went so far as to open up the code, which people should slap my hand when I do that. I can't change anything, but I can see things, and I almost understand what's in there. And but I'm pretty sure that it would be it wouldn't be a hard ad for us to do, but it's just not anticipated in there. So we should probably think about what other things. Is there any other page option? It would be really good if you can think about any other page option that you might like to have that you don't have access to, that we could do them in bulk rather than one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm learning everything that we ask for. It ends up taking it's not only the developer time but the Q&A time, and also grouping these things together is definitely a benefit, keeping other things moving. Yeah, health in these are in our page actions for management. Create page, load page, update page. Load page, is reliably bringing back those same features that we can do with create and update. But I think it would need to be brought out as a true false feature here, that these other settings where you're trying to work, they do still apply in DNN, but it's not a property. These are the tab module type settings. So that's not where that lives. That lives in tabs. So,
can you change the skin in the container here? I never used this feature, so I don't know.
Let's see. So page title, whether or not it's in the menu.
Yeah, I don't see it.
So that might be a good one. So that would be and we have some module actions too. Let's take a look at that. So we can create a module, existing module, update module. So let's see about that. And so let's see if there's container. Yeah, the container can be changed of a module. So I guess it would be the page theme and the default module, default container. Right. Okay. Great. Any others we want to do today?
I'm adding one to add the ability to save an invalid workflow or an incomplete workflow.
Save an incomplete workflow?
Yeah, I've had a couple times where I'm working on a workflow and it's not done yet and get called away, and then I come back and, oh, it's not there because I couldn't save it because it wasn't valid, as I went along.
Typically, the one that I know about is it has to have an end, right? Without an end, it's unsavable.
Also, if your splits all have to have a merge.
Yeah,
That's the other one, because that bit me actually yesterday. I was building something that had a split and I wanted to save it in the middle, and I couldn't save it until I created both sides and then a merge on top of that.
Yep.
So I wasn't ready to create the other side of that switch, that break. I was working on one side of it and I just wanted to save, but it wouldn't let me. So I had to create the other side, put nothing in there, create the merge, link it to the end, and then it would let me save.
And that's exactly where I was when I lost. It's like I did something to break my merge, and then
yep.
I was just blaming Linda a lot that day.
That's what we do.
So what do we? Oh, blame Linda. Yeah.
Yeah. You're muted, Linda. We can't hear you. You got to defend yourself. You have to be
wait a minute. I'm going, no, not my fault. But yeah, what about like the simple save? You got the option that says this is an incomplete workflow, save anyways.
right? Something like that, which, you know, I obviously don't want to execute it, just want to save my work as I go along.
Yep. And it looks like if it has any errors at all, it's just disabled.
Yeah, right now it's completely disabled if there's errors.
Yep.
But we could potentially add something in there just, you know, as a warning, so you don't think you're good. Just, hey, this is an incomplete workflow. Do you still want to save?
Yeah, maybe even in the workflow list, have some sort of indicator saying that it is an incomplete workflow. So
Yeah, that'd be nice.
you know, when you
Yeah.
save it and then you go back to that list, you say, oh, wait a minute, I didn't
Wait, this
finish
is the
this
one I didn't
workflow.
finish.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this one can't be executed because it's incomplete.
Yeah.
Dale, while we're talking about workflows, I don't know if you probably don't, but recall I had submitted a question actually where I had gotten bitten by workflows. I was humming along creating one piece of a workflow that was substantially the same as the next one and just moving it out of the way and then saving it. And it was disconnected. It
Yep.
saved, it never had an error, but it wasn't there anymore. That was kind of nasty to find out.
Yes, that one is on the development ready list, meaning it's as soon as a developer has the time to pick it up, it is going to get fixed.
Okay.
So yeah, that one I know about, and I do remember it. I found the exact same. I mean, it's great when you guys give enough details that I can reproduce them and then put them right in front of a developer. So that's on the list for a fix. I don't know the timing, but it's
That's fine.
All right.
I've learned not to do that.
Yes, thanks to you, Matthew. I learned not to do that. So didn't we also, on the topic of workflows, didn't we also discuss improving the experience of doing the splits and the conditions? I believe we talked about that before. And the font is small. You got to get in that little box, and it's
Yeah,
hard
that little side box you're talking about on
Open
each
wrap.
side of the split.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the other thing. I was playing with it yesterday, and I was like, man, I can't wait to see if this can be fixed.
yeah, that can be frustrating.
Yeah, that double click to set condition box.
Yeah, so I'm just creating one to take a look at here.
It just seems like an awkward way to do it. Didn't we talk about maybe putting those conditions right into like a pop-up properties box of the split? I think that was one of the suggestions. And if you
Yeah,
double-click on
even
that-
if we make that little text box, I think it's probably what you're saying, Mark. Give that text box a description and show the description of it, but not actually the logic, and double click it to open up the logic, because sometimes the logic can be quite long, and that little box, it becomes a complete and utter mess to read. And you know, sometimes I may just want to say, okay, if yes, go this way, if no or blank, go this way, but the actual code is a lot longer. I just want to say if no or blank and see that.
Or more of a comment than the logic, because
Right.
Good idea.
Yeah, and have the actual logic behind it.
And you know,
I'd
so
like
while we're picking at things, you put in content and you can make this as big as you want, but it still doesn't.
No,
Yep.
you can't.
Doesn't do anything. And I'd like to, I might be just me, but I'd like to see the fonts to be larger. I kind of have a hard time with that.
Yeah, it's unreadable to me, but I'm old, so that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm old too.
Does zooming help at all? Does it change on Zoom?
I don't think so. I don't think you, I sit corrected.
Yeah, so this of course is browser zoom, meaning
Oh, that's okay.
control.
Browser zoom
Yeah,
works.
control, scroll up, down.
Yeah, but still, the logic should be behind.
All right,
because
I'm
the
happier
comment-
already.
Yep.
Gave Mark a workaround.
I can work with that. I
It's a
thought I-
bonus
I
point.
know. You know, I know about Zoom scroll. I don't see why I didn't know that already.
You didn't want to use it, Mark.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
But it's still an awkward process. I think yeah. I don't know how hard it is to change this whole thing, but
Well, I can tell you it's again down the road a little bit, but we're going to have to do a workflow revamp. The tool that they were using, the BPMN tool that we're using, limits us quite a bit right now in what options we have. That's why we have not been able to just something that should be simple, like when Dale dragged that box out to extend it over, does not work using this tool. So it's going to be a pretty major revamp, but it is in the roadmap.
And also the box is not tied graphically to the branch, so that it can be kind of confusing as to which branch. If you can move that box around.
You can put it anywhere, and you don't know that that's where it went to.
And this is something we tried to fix, but there was
the
limitation of just like Linda was just saying, we tried to do a fix on this, but there was a limitation that prevented us from doing it. So, yeah.
But do keep sending in.
Yep.
Yeah, do keep sending in changes you would like to see on the workflow, so we can make sure that they get included when we do have the revamp on the workflows.
I think another one was an else path, right, or a default. If
yes.
the conditions came true, then to be able to have an else path. So lots of places where it could be better. It is nice to be able to graphically design and have paths, but always be better. And I like the suggestions of being able to save incomplete. It's the more you use it, I mean, that'd be the kind of thing that, you know, is just helpful to the developer. It's not really helpful necessarily to the end product, but helpful to the process. Great.
Is there a list anywhere of things that didn't come through the features that's public? You know, like I know before the feature request was available, there was a request to be able to change the icons in there on types, you know, on the types of items in a workflow. I mean, if that's already on the list, should we still add it to the feature? You know,
add it again. I would say add it again, just so now that we have this one place, we have it in our big list of feature requests. So if you don't mind, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that, let me see if I can find it here. Behind the scenes, we have, for the Planet App team, we have the ability to link these to our development system, and so it gets an ID. And the point is, by putting them here, we can link them to particular things and then be able to track where they go. So it does definitely help us to have them here, and if it's a duplicate, we'll sort it out.
Well, once again, I just want to say that it's really nice that you're providing us a way to request things like that. It makes me feel very heard and appreciated. So thank you.
Well, absolutely. And now, you know, the next thing is we want to make sure we're paying attention to these on an ongoing basis so that we can pick them off and include them in the product. So, in other words, if you have a place to list them out and you don't see benefits, it'll make sure we're listening. Okay, we're to the end of our prepared list. Is there anything else that you've been holding back and want to talk about today?
Yes, I have something. Is anyone going to DNN Connect in France?
I was thinking about it, but I had.
Because we can then have a sort of plan an app gathering, meeting, doing a kind of workshop thing or whatever.
When is that happening?
When does that happen? The end of June.
No, this is the wrong.
Yeah, this is old stuff, man. Go to the top one. Not DNN Connect Association. That's it. There you see, 3rd of June until the 2nd of July. Don't think it's the 3rd. So it's a Friday and Saturday gathering, and it's really fun.
I was going to say I would be willing to go.
Well, ask your boss. I think you should.
I was considering it, Peter, but I didn't pull the trigger on that one. But I'm actually going to be sort of in the neighborhood. But
in the neighborhood already. Well, then you should go, because it's a warm bath with all the colleagues and friends and stuff like that.
Registration for that closed like a long time ago. Like
that's not true. No, that's just that's not a registration. Come on, you can go. If you decide the 29th, you can still come. I'm very sure about that.
And I don't know. Patrick might. Patrick,
I think Bogdan will go. I guess Bogdan will go. That's for sure. He always goes to that kind of stuff.
It's nice to even begin thinking about going and doing again. So.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yes.
Well, we'll definitely bring this up in the product meeting and see.
Yes, do that, because it's good to have some of you guys around there. They have been there in the past, that's for sure.
And I know that's a lot closer to the other side of the pond, so we'll bring that up.
Oh yeah.
And thanks for bringing it to this, because I think it would be great, regardless of who gets to go. If there's a Plantinet subgroup get together, it makes sense to.
Yeah, I think it will be fun to do something. In the past, Hans Lenting and I did a couple of sessions on the DNN Sharp stuff. It's I think 2 years in a row or something. So it was nice.
Great. Good one. All right. Anyone else?
I have a couple of how-to questions.
Perfect. We're in the how-to business.
On our DNN site, we have users that register into the DNN, and what's the easiest way to import those, a few of them, into Plantinet? Is there an import user function that I just haven't found yet? Or
oh, you mean to have them show up in users here?
Yeah. So I can assign them extra permissions and things like that.
that's just adding a role, isn't it?
It's a role group.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's add a role to them on the DNN side?
Yeah, so they have to be in a role that's in the the name is escaping me for a second here, but
I'm going to bring up a example of this. So
isn't it just to get them access? Isn't it just the user's role?
Yeah, the user's role is in the role that that shows up in Plantinet. So so basically, the answer to your question is when you create the user. I mean, when you create a user in Plantinet, you're creating a DNN user. It's just that they're in a specific role that's in a role group that allows you to see them on the entity permissions. Does that help answer your question? So either way, you're creating a DNN user. It's just are they in a role that shows up in the Plantinet settings?
So if I have a user out there, an existing user on my DNN side, And I don't want every user going into the users group to be able to get into PlantinApp. How do I find them do I then just go through DNN and assign them to a users group that PlantinApp can see?
Do that, yeah.
Is that the?
Yeah, or you can use the action that that Dale's showing you right here.
Oh, so grant user role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can do a load user to get, so if there's any kind of a query or anything that you can use to identify the ones, I mean, if you want to do it programmatically, identify the users that you want to do, and then the action would be to load user for that user. So that's the context, and then use grant user role to grant them whatever role that you want. And so the PlantinApp roles are users, low code engineer, they're still citizen developer, although we're likely going to retreat that one. But assign one of the PlantinApp roles that you find.
And when you create roles in PlantinApp, they're being added to the role group that allows, you know, for you to, so you can create roles, also new PlantinApp roles that you'll be able to use in entity permissions.
Are you looking for these people that are created through the DNN side to automatically be in this user's role?
No, I'm not automatically.
Okay, so
So if they
want to
meet,
do select ones, because I was gonna say if it's automatic, you could always set the user's role to auto assignment.
Right.
but you could, but if it's based on certain criteria, you know, you could use those criteria as conditions to use the action to assign them to the correct role.
Another solution, if it's just interactive, you could have a listing that has the users in it and have a button that you click, you know, an action button that does this load user, grant user role. So you could interactively just click and assign the role. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but the underlying actions are load user.
So if I do something to search the DNN user table, come back with a user ID that I want to work with, the load user will allow me to load their.
Yep. Yes.
Okay. I was under the impression they would only load the users from the PlantinApp, you know, defined user list. So, okay.
And looking at my notes, we covered this in Campfire episode 7 too. So you might
Go back and find
another one. That'd be one to refer to. I don't know how quality. I don't remember where the discussion went. That was a year ago, but those are both. So, yep. And I've had some confusion around this. I don't want to go there. Just load user, grant user role.
I have a related question about the users and roles and so on. The the system automatically generates the forms and so on for an entity, and then it has the HasRole condition in there. Those role IDs, I know that, you know, the role names are one thing, and then there's obviously an ID in there. Is there any, I don't see any documentation in the tokens. Your HasRole describes about, I think, about role name, but doesn't say how to go quickly and easily get the role ID. And kind of thinking forward, Dale, when you're saying that the citizen developer may disappear, right? As what are you going to do about that? Because you've got it essentially hard coded in all of these, all of the forms that you auto generate. So there's also a follow-on question. Can that, and I think the answer is yes, but that enable conditionally, yeah, never mind, that can be a token. So I'm just wondering if you build out a set of, like, I've got roles for particular types of users that I will be adding, and I want to be as efficient about it as possible. So number one, knowing the role ID as opposed to the name, because that may change. And then two, obviously being able to put that in a token and then make forms conditional on that ability. So anyway, back to the original question, IDs. Do you expose that somewhere?
That's in the roles tab.
Mhm.
The roles tab.
Yeah, if you go into your Plantain app configuration, you don't use the roles page from DNN, use the roles tab from Plantain app. The
Okay,
roles listed there, the first column is the ID for all the
Check.
rows.
all right. So noted, thank you.
And yeah, and you can search for them. I think, so there was kind of a lot there in your question. Since I threw out the idea, we might do something with citizen developers. If we do something different with it, we will, we always do migration scripts. And, you know, it's easy for me to say and hard for the developers to do, but they do it. And so there'll be and it may just be the case where we no longer emphasize or hide that a little bit because we haven't clearly distinguished between low-code engineer and citizen developer. So we're trying to, we may simplify things a little bit, but those kind of changes, if we make changes, we'll account for them. There's kind of this ongoing question of what's the best way, excuse me, there's something that we ongoing have to deal with is roles, ID versus name. And I see that when we automatically generate forms, we're now generating them with HasRole citizen developers, the words, not the IDs. The benefit, previously I noted that we did IDs, so I think we've made a change in that area. As you're dealing with multiple environments, and this is one of the emphases that we're trying to do right now. So you've got a development environment, user acceptance testing, production, and it's very hard to keep those exactly the same down to role IDs.
Right.
So I think I'm interpreting from what I'm seeing in our automatically generated forms is that we are doing it by name. So it's something that you can reliably control from environment to environment. So if you develop a form in your development environment and it allows citizen developers or whatever role name you've added, that it will transport well from system to system. So whether in simple scenarios when you only have one system, you know, only a production system, using a role ID is safe, right? But
Right.
if you're trying to go from system to system, it's just one more thing to maintain as you move your development.
Well, conversely, then, if you change the role name, you know, edit it.
Yep.
That would then not follow through to the pages that have that old role name, correct?
That would be an administrative,
Okay.
an important thing for you to settle on, and if you change, then you know it's going to have impact. But at least it's something within your control, whereas role IDs are not.
Right.
If one was used, it would not.
So, you know, I'm looking kind of down the road a bit. I could see basically setting up a table, if you would, in form so that I could develop, you know, just put everything in a token, have that token name be on the page, and then control who sees what based on changing the token.
Yep, you could, if you wanted to, you could add a layer of abstraction there.
Okay.
It's just what is easier for you to control and to develop.
Right.
Good question.
So I have a general question for the group. In the past, I've been appreciating that when I create an entity, that the form and the list is created at the same time. And oftentimes I've borrowed that to create my own, and then I further develop mine. but I don't further develop the one that Plant and App makes. I realized that Plant and App is doing that on purpose, and maybe I should rely on it a little bit more. But I recently did a little project, and doing a little bit of entity changing didn't either all the way follow through, or it kind of messed up my form and my list. And I'm wondering, how good is it at doing that? Or was it just me? Did I do something wrong? Or like, who's using the form and the list that Plant and App is creating, and who's doing their own? I feel much more confident doing my own.
Well, I'll jump in and say that for the most part, I do kind of similar to what you're doing, Mark. What I typically do on my installations is I create a tab, I call it entities, and all of the entities that Plant and App creates, I tell it to put it under that page.
Me too.
Because honestly, I don't use them. I always create my own because I always want to do something a little different, the formatting, whatever. Very rarely do I use the ones that are built by Plant and App. I have like maybe 1 or 2 instances where I use the generated ones because for me, I'm like, okay, the look and feel of it, like, doesn't really matter. Like what it generates is fine. I just want to get the stuff quickly. But typically if the look and feel is something that matters to me, then I'm always creating my own pages. I'm disregarding what Plant and App is creating on the back end.
Thanks,
Also, kind of to follow up Mark's question. So if you have one of these default, and I do exactly the same thing, create an entities tab and stick them all essentially under there. But if you're going in and let's say rearranging them, you're not editing the form, well, the list, say you're putting stuff just in a detail view, because if a table gets long and wide, you lose it. If you change the entity, what happens to that, in that case, the view? It would be nice to know kind of the ground rules, to Mark's point, about when you have an entity and you have the list in the form, and then you make a change to that, here's what we touch, so that we know, I know in advance, okay, don't do that. I know you're not going to touch any of the custom stuff, but what do you change on the core form? And for instance, if hiding something in a detail view, is that going to essentially get overridden next time something happens to that entity?
Yeah, I have a little of intrepidation when I'm going to go make an entity change, and I'm worried, what is this going to do to my list, and what's my form going to look like? So yeah, but I wonder if that's misguided, because I know I actually don't use those very much because I have intrepidation, but I wonder if they're really designed. I should be doing that, is that's the question. Should I just be relying on the ones that they make?
So
who's using the ones that Plant and App makes?
So when we've talked about this before, one of the benefits of those generating is that they're really great maintenance screens. A lot of times you don't need, you're working with some form of an entity that maybe isn't going to be public, doesn't need, so from an administrative point of view, all those, I think the forms and listings that get generated are useful in that regard. But I agree entirely with Ben too, that the things that, when you care about what they look like, rolling your own, whether it's copying what we've done and then and then modifying it, or just starting from scratch, that's going to be the place where you're going to get the most control over what you're doing. And it's low code, right? It's not that hard to do in the first place.
Okay.
In terms of, should you have fear and trepidation over touching those things, ultimately, there's a way out, right? it's intended that you can make changes to those and that we will reconcile them. So if you change the order of things, or add a computed field, or add a button, or that it change the sort order, that we will adapt to that. When you start doing that, that's the place where you start seeing that error, or rather that when you save the entity changes, you make changes to the entity, that you'll start seeing that warning screen pop up. And it's real, all that is telling you, hey, I've tried to reconcile these things and here's how it turned out. And if you ever dig into that, that's exactly what it's trying to tell you, is that I expected this property and it found that, and here's how it resolved it. But again, assuming that you're using these as kind of maintenance screens, and if you were to do something, and I don't know exactly where the boundaries are, but the intention is we're going to reconcile it, right? But if you do something, if you manage to have something on a form, let's say you've added a property, and then you end up you add something onto a form, maybe it's computed, and then you delete an underlying property and it blows up the form. The very worst case is that you can delete out those forms, the form, the listing, and you do have to do remove them from the recycle bin. But if you then go back to the entity and save again, it'll just regenerate them fresh. So that's what I say. Ultimately, there is a way out. So you can't completely, you can't blow yourself up.
Okay, so I appreciate that reminder that it can be regenerated. But you know, I spent a lot of time in presentation, and so the thought of starting over isn't really enticing to me. But you know, if I'm using it as a maintenance tool, then I'm really not worried about presentation at all. So all good. I heard everything.
Cool. All right, with that, we've made it to longer than an hour, so I'm just going to be arbitrary and call it. But if you want to stick around for Afterglow, we would be happy to have you. We'll hang around for a few more minutes to see if there's any other questions. Another good episode of Low Code Campfire, and glad to have you guys show up week by week. And it certainly helps make the product better for us and for you that you do. So thanks. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.